Hello and welcome to another daily Muppet where I am actually doing them daily. And there's a lot of news as expected in the final week leading up to the start of the Premier League. So, a lot to cover each and every day. Today I want to talk about Harry Maguire as that deal moves towards a completion. Talk about what's next, including these interesting center back names. Talk about as well some midfield names, and I'll give like kind of a crazy rumor that I referenced a couple of times, just totally out there type of thing that some people may have guessed by now. And what else is next, and cover a few other points as well. So let's get into it. So before we actually get started, one thing I just want to mention. Obviously, earlier in the week, I didn't get to mention this. Earlier in the week, you have Roy Keane coming out and being a part of the kit release for Manchester United for the third kit, which is really growing on me. I wasn't sure about it, but it's really growing on me. And anyway, my general point on it was, obviously there's been a lot of contention over things like having any association with the club, with kits, with things like that overall. And you have certain groups that are kind of jumping all over people, attacking them about anything that they do that might be in association with the club at all. And the point I was trying to make when I was talking about things earlier is that my experience has been that Manchester United as a club have been working hard. The people within the club have been working hard to repair and improve the relationship between themselves, the club, and the fans. And this is somewhat irrespective of the ownership situation. There are people there, their last name is not Glazer. Roy Keane is someone who's been extremely, of course, critical of Manchester United's ownership, of the Glazers, of all of it, who's had very little to no association with the club for a long time and has come back to do an advertisement, essentially. And this is just another indication of this point I'm trying to make, where I don't really care what people call it. I don't think there's a negative in people associating with the club and the people at the club who are trying to improve the relationship with fans. That's what we want anyway, irrespective of ownership. That's something that we all want, to see. And said people who throw things around at anybody having any association with the club, turning on someone like Roy Keane, who's been so critical of it. I think one should step back and be introspective and say, can I separate the Glazers from Manchester United? And the answer is yes. The Glazers aren't Manchester United. Manchester United is Manchester United. The next owners, if there are ones, of Manchester United, be it Sheikh Jassim, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, whoever, they don't define Manchester United either. It's its own entity defined by the people there and the fans who support it. And in that respect, there's been a lot of work being done to help repair the relationship between the club and fans and people and ex-players and all of it. And it matters. And those are good things, irrespective of what needs to happen on the ownership. And that's all I would say. That's just all I want to say about that and make as a comment. And I think that if people could all align together on the same issue, on the right issue, and focus on it, then it would be a lot more effective than a lot of infighting and things like that. So, moving on. Harry Maguire. Obviously, yesterday, 2 days ago, I was told when the bid first came in that it was very close to United's fee at the low end of acceptable. And then talks were continuing. Yesterday, I heard it was very close. It was moving forward, and that it would be moving into the stage of just figuring out how these personal terms and wages come into play. Overnight, it was confirmed that that fee was agreed. And so really all that's left is personal terms, is working on it. So we've been, I think personally, this is about to happen. And I think it's virtually there. I know that from information I received that David Moyes has been in discussions with Harry Maguire's representatives, including his brother, about the move, warming them up to it prior to this bid, which is why it's more likely to occur now than it was a few weeks ago. And so we should be expecting that Harry Maguire moves on from Manchester United at this point in time. The wage thing has to be sorted because it's between the amount he receives at United and at West Ham, it's $9 million over 2 years of a cut, essentially. And usually that does have to be resolved one way or another, but United accepting a lower fee, maybe it allows West Ham to work out that deal with Maguire without Manchester United having to do a payoff. I think that's the goal. That was kind of the idea, as I understood it, was, yeah, okay, 30, it's at the low end of acceptable if we don't have to pay these wages off. So maybe you could do that. Maybe you just deal with that with Harry on your own, figure it out. So we'll see here. I think that this is moving, but a major factor is at this point in the season, it's the type of move that is going to pretty much come with and only with replacement. Manchester United cannot let Harry Maguire go without replacement. And so that's going to have to move pretty quickly at kind of simultaneous. And so if there's any delay, it's going to be down to that before you get like the done deal. It's going to be down to replacement because they're going to want to happen kind of simultaneously. I mean, it kicks off on Monday against Wolves. United could probably go into it without Maguire. Maybe they'll hold him out and then he'll transfer mid next week or something. So long as everybody's healthy, that's the point, is that they don't want to go into a situation where they don't now have the players at this weekend. And that's just key. They don't want to screw up the first game of the season. So there's just a little bit of timing that'll go into that. In terms of targets for center back, obviously you're seeing Todibo, Tapsoba, and Pavard. Todibo being a name that everybody has been talking about for some time. It seems still like a very realistic target. I think it's a good target. I think it's probably the most likely still, but maybe not. Tapsoba, I believe, is too expensive. Tapsoba is somebody that United had on their list alongside Pau Torres and Rafael Varane in 2021. I haven't heard much else about him, but there's Tottenham, when they tried to buy him, they needed to pay something like 60 million euros for him. That's a lot. I don't think United are going to pay that kind of money. Whereas Benjamin Pavard is in the last year of his contract. United have been tracking him a long time. They spoke a few months ago. The relationship is already there. Here's what I want to make very clear. Benjamin Pavard is coming in if he joins as a center back. Just get things out of your head about a right back. Wan-Bissaka's getting a new contract. Dalot got a new contract. Pavard's coming in as a center back. Okay? Leave it at that. And those names that I have heard, Inacio, Braithwaite, etc., those would probably be Lindelof replacements for next year for left center back. And that's often how things do go, is a year ahead at United. Like sometimes I hear things and it's next year, like with Varane and players like that. So yeah, situation as it stands is United, it appears, are now moving forward on it. They're probably kind of keeping up on both, I think, Pavard and Todibo. But again, real simply, they spoke with Pavard earlier in the year. He did not want to come in as a right back. They were kind of exploring it back then. He wanted to come in as a center back. So if you would join now, it makes a lot of sense as a right center back behind Rafael Varane, who's going to be on managed minutes. So there will be a lot of minutes for Benjamin Pavard to come in. And of course, the same with Todibo. The situation with that is, I don't know who I would prefer. I don't know who would be better. Pavard is a little bit older. Todibo probably has a higher ceiling. They're going to be the signing who are probably going to be the replacement for Rafael Varane, most likely, and end up being the starter. Is Benjamin Pavard good enough? I don't know. I haven't watched either of these players enough to know. I feel like Todibo has a higher ceiling and maybe could be a better player overall. So maybe I'd prefer that from an age profile. But we'll have to see. Regardless, in the next few days, United will make their move now on balancing Pavard, balancing Todibo, balancing these targets, and deciding who specifically to go for, who they can get the best deal for as well could be important. But they are coming in to be a right center back, to back up Varane, and to rotate with him in terms of his managed minutes. And the timing of that will be key alongside Harry Maguire. I don't think you'll see Maguire go and then it take a couple weeks to get somebody in. I think it's all going to happen nearly at the same time. And so, that would be, I don't have a ton on these two specific targets at this point in time. If I start to get details on them and, the details of how it's happening, then I will let you know. On most of the deals this summer, I've had something, but not a lot at certain stages until it really got into negotiations. These ones I would think would move a lot faster, though. These ones are going to have to move a lot faster. So if they actually start getting into it, maybe I'll get a little bit more detail. But these seem to be really well covered out there at the moment. So I don't think I'm going to be able to offer any extra insight as to where each of these deals are at. Personally, I don't think so. The sources of my information so far on these have been more longer term targets because it was not necessarily expected that Maguire would go even a few weeks ago. He was insistent on staying. I spoke to a lot of well-informed people in Las Vegas who insisted that as well. He wanted to stay. Moyes has been working on him, and we weren't sure if West Ham would make a better offer. And they did, and Moyes has been working on him. So it's become plausible. So these names are kind of coming back into the fold. It's not that they weren't prepared, but a lot of more of the behind-the-scenes work is now being done well in advance for, I think, later on next summer for getting where you're going to have a left center backs, two left center backs, two right center backs. Like Ten Hag was saying, he wants 2 players for each position. So anyway, that's what I've got there. In terms of the midfield. So I want to talk about this one because it's kind of funny. There's a couple funny things I want to say. I've been hinting at like some wild out there rumors, but let's get right into the midfield situation. Obviously, Fred and Van de Beek need to leave. They're apparently moving forward. I know that Fred has personal terms agreed in Turkey, but has also got some interest and close enough at Fulham and Villa, where if they came in with a good offer that was acceptable, he would take that move. It's going to be down to those offers being received by the club. He's back in training, expected to be involved in the first team until that transfer occurs. If Fred and Van de Beek depart, and right now it looks like McTominay won't at the moment, then a midfielder will come to the forefront. The obvious name is, of course, as we've talked about many, many times, Sofyan Amrabat. But here's the newer information that I have, and as well, the wild piece of information, okay? 1, Amadou Onana from Everton is a real target. If United could raise more money, for example, selling McTominay, or they get a better deal at center back and they can kind of move the money, they would consider Amadou Onana from Everton as a younger, more expensive, but higher ceiling player. Romeo Lavia is a player that they have made checks on at Southampton multiple times. They are interested in him. They could move for him too if they had the money, but it's going to require, I believe, a pretty hefty payment terms, even on a deal for 48 to 50 million pounds. So again, quite expensive compared to Amrabat. But if they can raise extra money, these deals become available. And then the absolutely crazy off-the-wall name that I've heard months and months ago is Aurelien Tchouameni. Now, I know this seems like a totally nonsense rumor, and the odds of it happening are literally next to zero. But this rumor was given to me months and months ago on the basis of a number of things happening, which have kind of started happening. And the first and major one of them was Kylian Mbappe wanting to leave PSG and Real Madrid buying him and needing to raise money in order to buy Kylian Mbappe and pay for his wages this summer. And that would be kind of the major domino number 1, where they would look at who can we sell, and it's Madrid. Tchouameni doesn't want to leave. It doesn't matter. If they want to sell him, he'll go. They don't really publicize when they're trying to sell, if they wanted to sell these players. But again, odds extremely low, but there was a tiniest little bit of discussion between people involved between the two clubs on the extreme down the road end of window opportunity that could come up should a bunch of things happen. And I don't think they will. It's like a nothing percent chance, but there's actually something there that has happened, and it'll probably be denied by every single person, but there is. There is, and it's not going to happen, but it would be really cool if it did, right? And that's the totally off the wall rumor that actually has a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of substance should about 1,000 things go right. Aurelien Tchouameni. And he would be obviously a hell of a signing because he could do practically anything that we would need in the midfield and be the long-term Casemiro replacement. So there you have it in terms of midfielders. It's a funny situation, but yeah, that's what I've got. I do expect the simplicity of it is we move for Sofiane Amrabat. It's the most likely thing once Fred and Van de Beek leave. But should a lot of other things happen, just keep your eye on some more expensive targets. In terms of other targets, obviously they tried to buy a young goalkeeper in Suzuki. They haven't yet. They're still looking. I don't really have much on that, but they're still looking for a goalkeeper. But that's probably why Heaton is staying as well in case they don't get one. There's still talk of another striker, but this could be tied to, or a player who plays off the striker could be tied to Mason Greenwood, just as like scenarios, right? Because not everybody's going to be informed on the situation yet. If Mason Greenwood doesn't come back, United are a little short up front, aren't they? With Amad Diallo's injury, if Pellistri goes on loan, they're a little short. So I expect that players like Pellistri will stay for a bit. I expect players like Hannibal to stay for just a little. And Hannibal, there's talk of a new contract and then going on loan. They want to integrate him in the team this year or next year. But they're a little short. And so there is talk of another attacker. If they were to move for Amrabat and then they just ended up selling McTominay later on in the window, they'd probably want to get somebody else too. So another midfielder there. So there's still a lot of balls in the air based on what happens, but not a lot of concrete names. And mostly what we can expect is a center back to replace Maguire and Sofiane Amrabat. That's what we could bet on. Beyond that, it gets very, very hazy, but there's still looks at it. I don't think more will happen, personally. And the last thing, I did this wrong. Hold on. I forgot I didn't change this yesterday. Let me just, shoot this all down here. All right. Fix this. From my missing Fulham rankings of the teams yesterday. Bam. All right. So last thing on Rasmus Hojlund. Obviously, there was this article from the Daily Mail that was talking about how, his injury's real bad. He won't be able to play twice a week and things. And yeah, it's nonsense. I tweeted this yesterday. He's in training on grass, which there was video confirmation of today. They're working on his fitness. They expect him to be out a few weeks. I know the official line came from Lowry about, targeting Arsenal. I understand they would like to see if he can be in the squad and on the bench for Forest. And then maybe in Arsenal that he can actually get some minutes because, there might be just that, why not? Why not be in the squad at Forest? Maybe there's an opportunity to play a few minutes, whereas Arsenal maybe can make a real contribution. But we'll see. It's not that serious. It's insisted, the people I talk to, the sources I have, that is not a big deal. And that, it's just fitness now. It's just working on it. It's kind of an injury where you just don't go too crazy for a few weeks and then it should be better. And then you just make sure you ease into it. But either way, they were going to be easing him into this season. And you'll see a lot of Rashford and Sancho at striker. You will. So there's really nothing to worry about there. The double check on, I even have more information on this that I really can't talk about because it's wild that I got this information. It was a double check. The injury thing that they got was a double check. The initial look, they noticed something. They didn't think it was a problem, but they just wanted a second opinion because it's an 85 million euros purchase. They didn't think it was a problem, and they still expected everything was on track, but they were just going to take the extra necessary steps to check it out. And it was what they confirmed. No big deal. It's not a stress fracture. He does not have a broken back, and he will be fine. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear yet again. All right, thank you for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next one.